while you're drifting off to slumber. You might hear a tip-tap and wonder if it's reindeer on the roof while you're slipping into slumber.
This is the Winter Fanboys Podcast, pre-recorded live at First Base Studios in New York City and Capitol Hill, D.C., Denver, Colorado.
Hello and welcome back to the Winter Fanboys Podcast. We've made quite the journey through Orchards of Failure, and we're here now at the very last song. Ready to bring it home. I'm with Adam McDowell, and I'm your host, Benjamin Poland. There we go. Now both of our names are out there.
Now we're out there. I like that you just took it. You're like, you don't get to say anything about an intro. I'm going to do it all.
No, I got the whole intro this time. This time it's all me. Adam, here we are. Sugar plums dancing in our heads. It's almost Christmas time. Tuck us in. What's the overall feel of this song to you?
So, the first thing I thought, I remember one of the first episodes we did for this one, a few hours ago. I had said, oh, it's a cover of Sugar Plum Fairies. It's not a cover of, right? It's Dave's original. This song, the 30,000 Feet, it's a lullaby. That's what I thought of. I thought of Dave tucking in a child and trying to get tucking me.
Don't.
You know what?
Yeah.
You're right.
Don't pretend.
Right. I'm not even.
It's
Dave tucking me in, and he's trying to get me to go to sleep because I can't. And
too excited.
Yeah, I'm too excited, and he is. Yeah, that's what I got from it, is that it's like this, Dave sings everything down. Everything is down the octave. Like, if Dave were to be, like, it's not like bass, but it's like, it's all sung down. And it's very warm. I think he's, again, playing the baritone ukulele or baritone guitar. He's playing whatever that guitar is that has these big bands on it. And... yeah, it just gave me kind of the warm feeling of being tucked in as a child the night before Christmas. Mm-hmm. I also like to picture Santa blowing me a kiss. It's kind of interesting.
Yeah, I was going to comment on that. Yeah. Santa's blowing me a kiss on the way out?
Interesting.
Ho, ho. Yeah. Yeah, you got the lullaby going on, and it's cool that like Dave is doing his own version of. You're very sensually grabbing at that mic. Sorry, it was distracting.
I was okay. Now I'm gonna turn it. I was trying to turn it, and then I was like,
without making any noise.
But you.
Sorry, I outed you. It's cool that we're like taking the Sugar Plum reference from the earlier, all through the house. Not a creature stirring, not even a mouse. And Dave's taking his own spin on the whole thing. And it's a nice way to kind of end this album. And it kind of fits with this theme of beginning 3 songs are kind of all looking backward. Remember, we're covering a really old Christmas song, and Missing You Too, and the next 3 songs are all looking forward, and now it's closing us out with a little lullaby, tucking us in, getting us ready for Christmas. We're excited to open presents tomorrow. I hope I get Legos. Adam hopes that he doesn't get coal again. And yeah, it's fun listening to Dave sing real low. Those are the things that kind of stick out to me.
Yeah, I think this is another song, though, lyrically, that is not... It's not like the last one that was all a joke that Dave wrote, How Fat Is Santa? Mm-hmm. But it's also not... What I've realized is the songs that have been written for this one, the ones that they've wrote, are not complicated. they're not also very story driven. I don't think they're
Hmm.
more metaphorical. Like this one has the story, but it doesn't have like when I think of like his stories, I think of like the what was the reindeer one that Dave
Um,
wrote.
yeah.
It almost feels like it's telling this whole
Pokey.
story. Pokey, yeah.
Yeah.
That
He
felt
was
like
telling the whole story in
you're
Pokey.
like you have a beginning, middle, and end. Here it just feels like you have a someone trying to lay down and you're trying to tell them how to you're trying to get them to go to sleep, and that's it.
Hmm.
You know, the ending isn't that they do fall asleep. The ending isn't that they do. There is no ending. The ending is
Hmm.
that they're he rides out on the chorus here. Um, which
It's exciting.
I think that's cool. That's go ahead.
Oh, sorry. It's exciting. I feel like Dave, he's got these songs locked and loaded for when he's a dad. You
Yeah,
know, like I think these songs are gonna get some real life use. You know, not just some fun album out there on the interweb, but uh, but like I could see him playing this song on the corner of the bed as he's like, Christmas Eve, um, for his kids.
yeah. This would be
That's
a
really cool.
yeah. That's also something I thought of was like just knowing Dave's again personal life, knowing where he's at, um, knowing that he is preparing or preparing for fatherhood. That this is a maybe that's where this is coming from.
Hmm.
Um, or maybe he's writing from when he was a child, right? The idea of remember, or not the idea of remember, but this idea of orchard failure, this idea of going back. I
Hmm.
said orchard failure, like that's the theme that I've been going off of. But I think this idea that we've been playing with the things in the past or nostalgia, and then we were talking about the last two songs kind of looking forward, and this one is
Hmm.
also kind of looking forward. Also, at the same time, could be looking back.
Hmm. Yeah, yeah. It's a nice place to kind of land with that feeling of both kind of looking forward, expecting Christmas tomorrow, but also looking back and um, and I'm recalling, like it occurs to me that this is not the first time we've talked about like themes of looking forward and looking back for Winter Failure albums. You know, I feel like we for sure talked about this with FL, um, like at the very least on that album. And I think we've talked about it before. And so I think like even just this time itself lends itself to like kind of that kind of spirit.
Yeah,
So it's definitely at home here. Uh, I do want to. I've thought a little bit more about like Orchards of Failure, and I have a kind of a feel of where I want to go, like how I might interpret that. And I'm curious what your thoughts are, but what I've got is like Orchards of Failure. You know, the album art is them in an apple orchard, and maybe it's just from when they saw each other earlier this year, and that's just the picture they have or whatever. But what I kind of see is like, you've got the tree that fruits and it drops its apples, and the apples contain seeds that grow up a new tree. And that new tree grows up and then it produces its own apples. And, like the apple doesn't fall far from the tree, like this kind of cycle. And we have strong themes of fatherhood, I think, in this album, and kind of anticipation, um, growth, uh, and yeah, kind of that like even what you mentioned here of like it's kind of both looking forward and looking back. Like it's cycle, right? It's the cycle, the cyclical nature of plants fruiting and growing and fruiting again.
that's actually really good. I didn't even think of that. I don't know why I didn't put that together. I'm not a big horticulturist, so that could explain why I'm not thinking about seeds. That's actually what I was going to say is I was like, let's all save this for a recap forget the recap. The recap's happening right now.
It's the recap.
And I think this is
Here it is. Welcome.
welcome.
Oh,
We're here.
recap.
We made it. We said this.
Oh, wow.
We said the last song, but guess what? It's the last song in the
bigger
recap.
on the inside.
Whoa. And so I was going to say, to kind of bring it back to the last song, but I was going to say it about the whole album, and it kind of makes sense now. I also think musically everything was pretty simple. And I was going to kind of try to tie that in with like kids and families, and how sometimes I think a lot of the times I'm not a dad, but I feel like a lot of the times you have to keep things simple.
A lot of the times I'm not a dad.
A lot of the times I'm not a dad.
But sometimes I am
Sometimes. That reminds me of a time when I was serving somebody and they said, they asked me if they like something, and I said, I'm not a mushroom. I meant to say I'm not a mushroom fan, and I just said, I'm not a mushroom. To which they laughed, and I said, I don't know how to talk. What I mean,
simple, you're saying.
Yeah, so everything is, so, you know, maybe they did that on purpose, maybe they're crunched on time, whatever. But to me, you're talking about this idea of fatherhood, this idea of, I like your idea so much better, because orchard of failure makes it feel like they're growing the orchard.
Mm-hmm.
This goes back to the idea of like what's going to happen in 7 years from now, right? Do their kids make songs? Do they add more to this? Like, does this orchard grow? Does the winter failure as an orchard grow? And what I was trying to say about the simplicity of the instrumentation that they use, because in the last song, Dave uses two things. It feels like the guitar, and then what sounds like
a shaker.
Does he use a shaker
and a tambourine
in the last song?
That was the last song he did.
I'm thinking of the song that just ended. The song that we're talking
Jingle
about.
Bells.
No.
You mean the song we're talking about right now?
Yes.
The Sugar Plum song.
Sugar Plum song.
In the Sugar Plum song, yeah, I think maybe just a guitar.
I didn't hear it.
All I remember is just a guitar.
There's guitar and strings. And so I don't know if those strings they're probably electronic, right? They're probably like or a synth. It's guitar and something else. And then it ends with like a wave sound. Maybe like almost like reverb or
yeah. Nice some effect on it.
Also, sorry if you can hear the cat. Paul's cat Mittens is crying.
I can't hear it.
Okay, well I'm just saying that because if I hear it in post, I'm just gonna be there. So I think that like this idea of making things simple makes me think of also families. Like I think of logistics for families. I think of like when families go places or do things, they have to keep things simple, because especially if you have one kid or if you have 10 kids, you have to figure out a way to navigate things. And I think that when you're teaching to kids, you have to keep things kind of simple, right? You can't overcomplicate things. And so I think it's interesting. Brand's just playing the guitar, singing with the kids. This lullaby is it makes me feel like Dave could just have the guitar and actually be singing this lullaby, as opposed to it being this big production of something, versus the first song that I think has the most production on it, which makes me think of the 80s, right? It makes me think of stuff that I actually like, which I think is still like structurally kind of simple, but it's a little more complex when you have multiple, instruments and multiple lines that you're working with. So maybe that's
right. It does get simpler.
Maybe that is something that they didn't even think of, and maybe they just did it for pure purpose of just what they were working with. That's just what it's just. Yeah, it's just what it just was thinking that.
I see that in Dave's cover of Up on the Housetop as well, where he kind of like he's got the two guitars playing at once and kind of some mixing going on with stereo. So like you hear some in your left ear, some in your right ear. Um, and so even though it's a cover, I feel like there's a little more going into the like instrumentation of that song. But as we go on, it does get simpler. Yes, Adam,
Up
you
on
have
the
your hand
housetop.
raised.
We said that we were going to bring this up in the recap, but we're in the recap. What's up on the housetop? What was
Well,
the thing
here
you
it
wanted
is,
to?
up on the housetop. Yeah, so well, I said
You've
I was going to
waited.
look.
Everyone has waited until
Everyone
now.
waited. The
This is the
CEO
moment.
has let me know that I can
The
finally talk
CEO, the
about it. You're
CFO,
all in on it, you know. The COO is giving me the green light. The CFO has handed me a blank check for this next part. Um, yeah, so I went and listened to some covers of Up on the Housetop while we were in one of our breaks. And I kid you not, the Jackson 5 do a cover of that song. And so you can listen to Lil Michael singing Up on the Housetop, and heard it here, folks. The Winter Failure has done a better cover than Jackson 5
I don't know. That's going to be a
by
hard sell.
far.
That's going to be a hard sell.
By far. No, you listen to
That's going
Jackson
to be a
5.
hard sell. I love
You
the
listen to that
Jackson
Jackson 5 cover. Listen, that's fine. You go listen to it. I like the Jackson 5 too. It's not a good Jackson 5 song. Like it's not. It's not very good. It's like it's fine, you know. It just sounds like it doesn't sound like I want to listen to it again.
All right. Well, that's
and
interesting.
and the other cover of it that I listened to
Mariah
was
Carey.
a cover that the Pentatonics did.
Oh,
And so that one I feel like is the tougher one to beat there, you know, because you got the whole acapella thing going on, and
yeah.
they do a whole like thing at the end where they like start naming reindeer, and it's fun. It's fun. It's very different, very very different. But it's really fun. I think of all of those, of the three of those I listened to though, the one I would listen to again and like have in the rotation would be the Winter Failure version for sure. Like I like what Dave does with the guitar a lot. I like that he keeps it fairly simple. The Pentatonics one is fun. It's very like theatrical, performative, and all of that. But it's not like what I want just for like some Christmas music, you know?
Totally.
That's like a oh, like let me show you this cool Christmas video, you know, here's the Pentatonics doing this Christmas medley.
Yeah.
And the Jackson 5 can get right out. You heard it here.
Okay. Wow. So I kind of want to do some final thoughts. One, I'll start, and then I'll punt it over to you.
Now you hand me that ball back.
No, I'm going to punt it. I'm not going to hand it to you. You live in DC, so I have to punt it far.
What if I miss? It'll go so far.
Okay.
Tell me your thoughts.
I'm glad that you said you feel like you had brought up and you talked about fatherhood, because I listened to this the first time through. We were going to get our Christmas tree, and I listened to it, and I was like, it made me think of fatherhood, and I was like, I can't tell if that's just me because, you know, we're kind of Bree and I are in that season of life where we're talking about having kids and wanting to have kids. And so a lot of it's on my mind. A lot of the things I think it's interesting that you say that. So I'm glad to hear that, you know, your final thought on it, or I'm glad to hear that you said that you feel like this is about fatherhood and about seeds and about, you know, I think that's great because that's what I thought of as well.
Yeah.
What'd you say? Just plant seeds.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, that's good to hear because that's, you know, my first take on it, but then I didn't bring it up at all until just now, until you brought it up. And I was like, oh yeah, that was my first kind of listen through. So I'm kind of curious of what your final thoughts, what your final thoughts are.
What are your final farts? What are your thought farts?
Thought farts.
Which stink and no one wants to hear them. Yeah, I think like Adam loved that one. That was one of his favorites from tonight. So yeah, I think kind of the theming that I brought up earlier still sticks out to me. The other thing that sticks out is like one of the other themes is like Like there's a little bit of regret in missing you too, and in remember there's that like remember who you are, Simba, remember who you are,
Mm,
um, and like there's no one like you, and there's never gonna be, and uh, I can't remember the other part of like the chorus of remember. Oh, that we're not alone, right? So there's some nice in this album. There's some nice like they do a little bit of reaching, right? We start out with a little bit of reaching. We play around with some like complicated emotions, and then things as we go on kind of get more simple and get a little more like they come home. They're like outside, they're wandering the streets, they're experiencing the bigness of life, but eventually they come home, and home is warm, home is where the family is, and it's time to tuck in the kids for bed because
mm,
Christmas is just around the corner. And Christmas is a time to be with family, but it is also a time to think on like life and choices you want to make and who you want to be and all that. And they do a good job of touching on those things. It's a nice little EP. Um, and yeah, it's a cool transition album. I'm curious to see where they go next. It's gonna be a big year for the boys, I think, next year. Um, so we'll see.
yeah,
Those are my closing thoughts.
yeah, that's great. I think that's great that you kind of wrapped it all and it kind of like circled back. Um, yeah, I'll be curious to see where they go to next. I'll also be curious to see if we do more than just at the Christmas time, right? We look at that
Yeah,
other one that you had brought up that they did in 2020 that they put out the
2017,
27
which one?
no, the
The
best
15 years
of.
of failure.
Yeah, 15 years. 15
Yeah,
years
that
of
would be
failure,
cool. I think that'd be cool to
which
do.
would kind of be a
That one
good
would be
idea to
cool.
touch on all of them, especially now that I'm like picking up on the themes. I feel like this time around we were like really
Hmm.
hammering the themes that we've seen already. The things that we expect from them. Or that we just know there are their tendencies, their
Hmm.
personalities coming through. So I think that would be very interesting. I will say this to those that haven't listened to it yet. We've been saying it for 7 episodes. Go listen to the Winter Failure. That was the whole reason we decided to do this at an Amy J show. Shout out to Amy J. Remember that? That's
Yeah,
when
go
we
listen to her
decided to
too.
do this. Yeah, go listen to Amy J.
Yeah, she's great.
Yeah, will somebody make a spinoff for Amy J?
Yeah, I remember that show. It was a great show.
Yeah, we went to see the show, and then got to talking to Dave, and then we said, "What if we made a podcast about their albums that they
And
really?"
we're like, yeah,
Yeah,
we're
yeah,
gonna
yeah,
we're gonna do that
yeah. We'll do
actually.
it. And here we are. We are
I'm glad we did.
5 seasons in, and this is where we're at, and we still find
Yeah.
time. It's almost like it's tradition now.
It is not almost like it's tradition. It literally
I
is
literally texted
tradition.
you and like send out the bat signal, right? I was like, it's Winter Failure needs to unite. Like this is now Winter fanboys need to unite now. Once the albums drop, because we get no heads up. Hey, we finished it. It's gonna come. I honestly don't think they have heads up. I think they just finish it when it comes and then they just post it.
Oh yeah, it all comes hot off the presses.
Yeah. Did your AirPods just die?
Hey, my AirPods just died.
Wow, that's a way to end this thing right now. So I say we wrap this up. We put a little button on it. Hey, have a happy 2025, because by the time this comes out, it will probably be right before New Year's. So happy 2025. Have a fun time to all of our 12 followers with their friends, family. Most of you are family and friends, so hopefully we see each other or talk to each other.
Thank you so much for your support of this very silly project.
Totally. 12 people is actually quite a bit of people to think of an idea that we just make a podcast about our friends who write their own Christmas music. You're like, you would really just expect two, Bran and Dave, are listening. So the fact that we have,
Right.
3 or 4 times that is pretty good.
We're so thankful, and yeah, I hope everybody has a wonderful New Year. Adam, have a Merry Christmas.
Oh, you as well. Ben, have a Merry Christmas. You gave away, it's before Christmas. We're recording this before Christmas. We already know that. We don't know when this is coming out. It's right
Of course
before
we're doing it
Christmas.
before Christmas. We gotta get in. But you will be listening to it after Christmas,
Yes.
most likely.
Sometimes people will listen to these years later, so that's true. It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
They live on
In
the
space
internet.
future where there are
They live
laser
on-
monkeys.
Yes, laser monkeys. Yeah. Have a Merry Christmas, Ben, and have a Happy New Year as well to yourself, you and your family, out in DC, Denver, Colorado. And with that,
This has been the Winter Failure, or the whoa, no, this has been the Winter Fanboys podcast.
now you got to say it again, and we're keeping all of that. I was clapping over you.
This has been the Winter Fanboys podcast, where we review the Winter Failure who make the most original Christmas music that no one has ever heard of, but we're slowly turning the tide. I've been Ben.
I've been Adam.
Stay frosty, my friends.
Yeah.
So get nestled snug in your bed. Let those sugar plums dance in your head. In the morning, your stocking will be open.